Well, great job going live without a bloody ashtray. We'll be right back with you. There we go. So, yes, that was a secret doily reveal. I didn't actually forget an ashtray. Well, I did, but I had to pretend as if I had, at least. So, hello everyone from the new posh den. Can a den be posh? Wouldn't really be a den then, would it? I've also come to a realization today that I have no idea why I'm wearing headphones when I'm live, and I'm not reviewing anything. I'm not speaking to anyone on panel, so I'm just wearing them as something I've become habituated to while sitting at the computer. Strange things are afoot, but stranger things have happened. Yes, concerning the duck fat question, I will be trying to find some this weekend. I have not forgotten it. I have forgotten, well, Emmanuel said it was good, and another person said it was good, but I can't remember who. So someone remind me, because I will hold both of them very much responsible if I happen not to like it. Duck fat up. So yes, things, as you see, are moving along. Hello, Jotlandia raid. Dobry wieczór, dragoj Push. Wait a minute. Okay, you do spell it with a sh. I was wondering if it was an SH. Hello, Jim Bob Raid. That went up quickly, quite a bit. Zdravo Meister. Jakub. I knew Jakub was a Serb. The first white people who were created were Serbs. I mean, depending on whatever happens, the first one was Serbs. We'll get to which ones they were exactly is rather secondary. Oh, Bobby C with 5 USD says, hello, Porsche, or Posh, which is how Americans say it, Posh. Which is why Andrew, and I still have not forgiven him for this, twice confused me, or at least my name, with Vosh, because it's Posh and Vash, and I don't know, that's no, not a good enough excuse to do such a horrid thing to a living, breathing entity, not even human. Like, imagine calling, I would never call a dog Posh. Well, there you go, I've ruined my own joke. Excellent. I've not even begun drinking yet. So, welcome to the new Posh Den, all of you who have tuned in. As you can see, the doilies are not light. In fact, I have more doilies in this room than in any other room. I can show you the curtains. There's one on the table there, including a lot of paper work. Most of it being sheet music, such as this Sonata K450 by Domenico Scarlatti and stuff. Because here is also some piece of good news. we've got a piano, as I have mentioned, both on Instagram and in the previous stream, but now I have it set up. Bosch, can you send me a doily? Perhaps. I mean, if there's anything worth being doxed over, it's it's getting a doily. So yeah, Blue Skittel, I showed the curtains. Originally, I was supposed to be facing the curtain. The opposite of the curtain, so the camera would be facing the curtain. It's a lovely curtain, very old-fashioned, but that would mean that the window, which gets quite a bit of light, would be in the back, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems for the camera. It's a beautiful moustache, Bosch. We don't appreciate lies here, even good-intentioned ones. 80s grammar decor. Yeah, I love old-fashioned decor. So this room, we had it repainted on the 30th of December, which is not the common practice. But the stuff they have for like painting and this type of work compared to what was available like 10 years ago is outstanding. So it dries up quickly, and I was able to equip this room to move. Yes, I had to hire someone. I did paint the rest of the floor, but on, during not summer, spring, which means, you can have it rest and stuff, but the guy did it in like 4 hours, actually more 6 hours, but still, nevertheless. So it was extraordinary circumstances. Painted the floor? No. We did change the carpeting. So yeah. Well, those chairs fashioned in the early 1700s, as the whole neighborhood had come to experience the lavish luxury. I think these were in the mid 1900s. They're very lovely. I love the color and the doilies, of course, adorning them, which makes everything better. If you look at traditional like Serbian headwear for women, it has a lot of the doily qualities. So again, it makes everything better. Does the carpet match the doilies? No. I mean, I could, I guess, use it like to stop the bleeding from like a stab wound, and maybe they would get closer to that. Yeah, Russian too as well, very Eastern European. This is what I was talking with Mano earlier about. So it's not even just Slavic. So that's what that's how we make women better doilies. Yes. You buy a lot of smaller ones. You need to practice with the smaller ones. You don't want to go for like net sized. You need to go decor sized and just throw it on. And to celebrate this this move, I've prepared a single shot of rakia, Slivovica, and to consecrate the place. And then more alcohol later, but damn, that's good. Practice with the small women first, right? In stature, not in any other way. So yes, this is how it is. There will be smaller modifications. Like I will be getting some lighting to go directly in front of me. It's rather suboptimal to have it from the side and also a bit from the back, but it will work for this particular stream. So that's great. David James Flood says Nostrovia, which might be some like Czech or Slovak. I'm not familiar with, because it does sound close enough to Nazdravje, as we say in Serbia, Nazdravje, although we tend to say živeli. Slav drinks a rakia, next thing he invades Anatolia. Yes. More headphone lighting again, sick. No, this is just reflecting. Sorry, I know I will never live it down. I did keep them until they broke. I realized I had made a mistake worthy of being memed and mocked, but I'm not going to intentionally do it now. So yes, been busy. I know I haven't been active, but I've been busy with working with the Crucible, working with Andrew, which means a lot of books, a lot of reading and stuff. But I have some free time now, and I thought I come in and say hello. You said you were getting lightning. Did I? Well, I sure hope so. As I said, I'm not a person who suffers from a surplus of will to live. Right. Don't take that too seriously. That's just Slavic humor. Andrew finally outsourcing to the cheap Eastern European labor. Yeah, highly appreciated. I've been calling him sir this whole time. So that debate on Wednesday that he had, you have no idea how much we laughed. We were reviewing some of the content this Jeffrey fellow made. You can't imagine half of it. I will be talking about some of it today, just because it's funny and to bring attention to certain methodologies implemented by these truther people. But I was shocked, and I was continuously more and more shocked. So we had a blast prepping for that. Is that LGBTQ church guy? No, that's Brandon. I remember telling Andrew, I don't know what to do with this guy. He doesn't even believe. Jeffrey, Jeff, Dorothy, like he puts more faith in the scripture than Brandon Robertson, I believe. Yes, thank you for the confirmation, Justin Henley. But I'm like, I'm willing to help out. I just don't know how to deal with such people. So, as I expected, there was very little theology or biblical exegesis that was done, because it doesn't matter. The fellow uses it as a what is it called, like a skull key, skeleton key, right? Skeleton key. To open whatever door to whatever degeneracy one can. That's where higher German criticism leads. It leads nowhere good. And it doesn't matter that, I talked about this on stream, King David was considered a mythological figure, as in he didn't exist, because you had no archaeological evidence. And then, okay, you conclude that, but then you happen upon some archaeological evidence. People started debating it, trying to play with the Hebrew there, and then more evidence was also unearthed, and it became conclusive that you have David as a historical figure. But so they gave up. So higher German criticism is just nonsense. You have to understand in that 19th century, what the Germans started doing was turning everything into a Wissenschaft. Everything has to be a science. Your Naturwissenschaft, your Sozialwissenschaft, right? Everything has to be a type of science, which is why we get the terms like social sciences, which is nonsense. Like, it's not science. And it shouldn't be treated as such. It's fine if done correctly. It has its uses, it has its benefits. I'm not contesting that. I'm questioning the terminological inexactitude that is implemented there. It can't be a science. as the Greeks distinguished between doxa and episteme, or okay, never mind, I'll pronounce it in the old Greek. But you have a doxa, which is like a perspective. So it is perspectival. It depends on how you view it, which is what history would be like. And then the episteme, which is where we get the term epistemology, is like proof. And it applies to mathematics. It applies to things you can prove. Everything else depends on perspective. And that's something that is completely has poisoned the way we think since the Enlightenment, because trying to mechanize everything was also part of it. Obviously failed. Obviously, every ideology conceived in that time has shown itself to be nonsense, or even something like capitalism has its successes, but those are accidental to the justification for them, because it's closer to being proper to human nature and behavior than something like socialism. You know, socialism is, as they will repeatedly say, it's a scientific ideology, scientific theory, scientific approach to the world. They don't think they're doing anything esoteric. They're very clear about it. And I will repeat my critique of socialism as the biggest problem with it is not its economy. It's not like, oh, they don't know, people are going to be corrupt and stuff. Even that is a consequence of its very, very faulty anthropology. They believe destroying culture, religion, traditions and stuff would give you the pure, the good, this positivism, blasted positivism, if you ask me. Like, everything is good unless corrupted. A very Rousseauian view of human nature, you know, quite opposed to the Hobbesian view of human nature, right? Which again is closer to the truth than the Rousseauian one, although I, of course, don't agree with it. And the idea was, people are if you remove all of this nonsense of religion and traditions and culture, you get the good person. And when you get the good person, they don't need a government. And that is the point in socialism, where you start disassembling the state. And as you disassemble the state, you slowly drift into communism. And communism is a stateless society. And I hate the fact everyone who complains, oh, the left ruined the word fascism or racism. Like, the right has been ruining terms like fascism and sorry, not fascism, but socialism and communism for all sorts of purposes. You don't like something, call it socialism, call it pinko nonsense, call it whatever you want. Why? Because it's expedient. And many, you know, terminological and other types of nuances are sacrificed at the altar of political expediency, immediate expediency, because you chip away at the credibility of anyone who's trying to use these words in such a self-serving manner. It's ridiculous. Let me read the chat a bit. Nice setup, Osh. Thank you, Moldy Apple. Talk about the fish in the fishbowl. Somebody said Adam and Eve destroyed paradise and monks wrecked to desert. Maybe the US destroyed freedom. No. That's not exactly how it works from the Orthodox perspective. Like, Adam and Eve were chased out because they would have died. In a sinful state, in the direct presence of God, they would have perished. So the expulsion from paradise is a mercy, and what they're set up with, everything from there is setting up a system to start reversing the problems that sin brought in, right? All the commandments that are given to them, and later on they accumulate and culminate in the incarnation of God Himself. Yes, God set up a hospital. Once you start removing this nonsense of God being angry in a petulant manner, and not being angry as a parent would be angry, things start to make a lot more sense. Especially Orthodoxy starts making more sense, because that is the correct way to view things. But unfortunately for all of us, it is necessary to have an angry God to justify penal substitutionary atonement. And because we all know that's true, right? Because we all read 2 verses from Romans 9. Now everything else has to be interpreted in that light. That is the problem of sola scriptura, and all the manifold consequences that it has wrought upon the world. Am I familiar with Gene? I did watch some of his appearances. I'm not particularly familiar. I meant it as a funny Greek saying not to be taken too serious. Okay. I didn't take it too seriously, but I always like to use any opportunity to shill some Orthodox theology. Right, monks raised in the desert, meaning the best environments can be tainted. Yes. I understand. So now we can switch to beer, obviously. Yes, Gene, I like his appearance. I like the appearances I saw, but I've been in a very limited manner exposed to him, his work, so I can't give any blanket statements. Oof, goodness. A Gene Posh collaboration would break the internet. Well, people have been saying for a while I should do something with that Catholic fellow. What's his name? Something rationality or reason, which is like 70% of Catholic channels. But he's also got a deep voice. He interviewed Father Josiah Trenham recently, which I appreciate. So even Jim Bob tagged me in a recent tweet exactly on that point. Isn't decreasing alcohol percentage bad? I've heard that theory, but the thing is, like when you drink rakia, you drink that, and then usually with the appetizers and stuff, beer is stuff you drink after you've eaten, right? That guy sucks. Yeah, reasoning with reason, reasonably. Rakia is fantastic, yes, but it's also a very broad term. Should not be confused with the Turkish raki, which is like ouzo. So it's not fruit-based like rakia is, and you can make it from all sorts of fruits, and obviously from plums being the most popular one in Serbia. But you also have like from apples and pears and grapes, and basically if it's got fructose in it, you can make it into a rakia. Right. I'm one of the few Serbs that don't drink at all. Well, I understand. If people have bad experiences or just don't like it, must be quite difficult, actually, that I think about it. Not resisting the temptation, but the people around you being like, "Well, are you gay?" Which again is not just a Serbian thing. He is not a Serbian. Excommunicated for the blasphemy of teetotaling. Listen, it's bad for me when I don't drink, and it's like because it's Lent, or like I'm trying to lose weight or normalize my circadian rhythm, which I'm terrible at. But so I can't imagine it being perpetual. I'm one of the few Germans that always drinks. Are you Bavarian? Because I from my impression, it wouldn't be particularly, uncommon in that southern province is, again, it's Protestantism. Just ruins everything. The Catholic ones, they're fine. Oh, born in Canada. Well, there's your problem. Goodness, Canada's a mess right now. It's really, we can talk some geopolitics and politics and stuff because a lot of things have happened. So cheers, beer-wise. Or as they say in real Canada, à nos santé. Okay. But really, everything's been quite a mess since since we've last, congressed to discuss things. So I don't know what to make of Alberta separatism. Well, I don't know. I think Jordan Peterson is from Alberta, so I'm not sure if you will be able to sustain a nation. He recently, I've heard, I have not yet checked it out, he did proclaim that Jesus is God. Now, is that the classic Petersonian, well, yes, he's God, but, and then like 500 words basically rendering it moot? I don't know. But, we should always hope and pray for things to go in that direction. There's only so much Pajot can do in that regard. Alberta sustains all of Canada. Yeah, I've heard it's the Texas of Canada. Okay, back to, sorry, I have to go back to my topic. Right, Israel. There's this ceasefire coming. Apparently tomorrow should be the first stage of it. There's this fellow by the name of Witkoff, not the treasonous one that has been around our YouTube circles, still is, as far as I know, haven't watched. So a different Witkoff from New York was sent to Israel on the Sabbath, and I can't imagine that was accidental. That seems like a flex, right? So everyone was saying, well, they probably, it could have been planned, obviously, on both sides, I mean. But that seems like a power move to send someone, and then when they say, the Prime Minister does not meet with anyone on the Sabbath, he's observing the Sabbath. Christ is King, that's not something I'm willing to get into, but he basically called Jay demonic and stuff. Nevertheless, Andrew made a whole trash talk extravaganza about it and showed quite a few things. So I've stopped watching since he started going after Jay. I do not appreciate that. If he went after him for good reason, then I would be like, okay, you've got a point. He did not have a point. He still hasn't got one. And I'm very unappreciative of it. What's this with Pajot? Best Pajot can do is symbolic God. No. He is doing well for a certain subset of people with a certain way of thinking, very artistic way of thinking. So you have to go even more abstract than where I am with mostly, linguistics and stuff. So it's fine. And he actually knows how to put his foot down. He just doesn't do it often. I was very apprehensive about him, but he did show quite a resolve at certain points. But if it's not in his nature to behave in such a manner, I can understand that. Back to our Israel thing. So will Israel stop? I've heard the talks of the alleged side deal and that, whatever will happen in the West Bank and what they will continue to do in Gaza, because apparently they were supposed to have a full retreat. So for those of you who are unaware of the exact circumstances, first of all, Netanyahu is physically ill. Okay, he's got cancer. I believe pancreatic. Someone correct me if it's not exactly pancreatic, but he's had, had to undergo certain procedures, surgical ones. So it's pancreatic. It's not the exact kind you can't operate. It's stage 3, so he's not in the best of health. He is in a very deep, the technical term is doo-doo, as far as his relationship with the IDF. I talked about this, because they're not happy that he keeps pushing them into all sorts of places and then is unwilling to bring people into service who are most bellicose, that being the extremely religious side. Then he is not, it's not turbo cancer. I know what you mean, but no, it's apparently a boring old type of cancer. Sorry I missed the start. I was busy being on Instagram. I need to monitor 24/7. Yeah, I asked Baron Strawberry today, like, why are you online on Instagram 24/7? Because for some reason, like, I wake up at like 4 a.m. and I need to go to the bathroom. I like check my phone and he's there. Like, don't you have 5 children? Right. So back to point. So he's got the problem with the IDF. He's got a problem with health. He's got a problem with the intelligence agencies, which is that he published certain documents to try and, show himself in a good light using one of his lackeys, and they're not very happy about that. And he's got now political problems. People have put massive pressure on him. Everyone has put massive pressure. Like, the pressure he receives, as we talked about, from the populace is not to stop the war, but to escalate, like to start using more brutal means and stuff. He can't do that because even like the previous administration has to like maintain some face, and they haven't got any surplus of face left from all the other things they're doing. So he was sort of caught on that side. But then massive pressure to get the hostages. And then what do? You sort of don't have the manpower. Again, it's not a very populous nation as compared to the surrounding nations, especially. They've got limited resources in that sense, even though they've got the best technology in the region. They're fairly competent as well. No one should deny that. Like, it is a reservist army, but the people who are professional really are good at it, and I talk about especially like the Air Force, and their intelligence is virtually unmatched. So even with, these shortcomings, they have done pretty well in comparison, not in any moral sense. I'm not talking about morality at the moment. I'm talking about like realpolitik, just to be clear. So they've done pretty well, but not well enough, and they have very, very they have a lot of problems concerning the fact that their army is not built for long-term warfare. It's built for shock and awe. It's built for quick, relatively quick wars, engagements and stuff. These reservists have left jobs behind, They have people who refuse to return to the posts. They even have some problems with things like self-deletion, right? Because there's a point at which, you just realize you're basically just stomping down on civilians. even grant them all the claims that they make, we're just trying to get terrorists, we're not doing anything uncouth, it's still like the very activity you go through, like the fact that you're mostly blowing up people who have nothing to do with it, that weighs on individual people who are again reservists, the regular people, right? And don't know what happened there. I don't know if that was a warning. But we appear to be back. No, it's not the wrong button. My hands aren't even on the keyboard or the mouse. So Witkoff got well, I can't buy the beard oil. I haven't got a beard to use the oil on. So back to our topic, as I haven't been warned on any level about what I'm doing. So it might have been just an internet problem. Right, so I'm talking about all of these factors because there's not really much to be done other than utter destruction or escalation to a full war with Iran. And I don't see how Trump would benefit from that. He obviously didn't want this thing to continue. The war that is currently happening, and I call the Jim Bob glitch. What was I saying? The ongoing thing that is supposed to stop, I can start the hostage exchange tomorrow. So the big problem is that Trump really doesn't want that to continue on during his administration. And then this was a massive flex that he basically said, look, I could do what you were pretending to want to do even before I'm in office, which gets him points across the board. Like, very few people are going to be upset about this, right? Left and right. So some people are, let's be clear, but population-wise in the US, so not special interests, this is a pretty popular move. And if he were to, go back on it or somehow fail to deliver fully, that's going to reflect very poorly on him and will be a huge weight on the rest of his time in office. The second thing we should also consider on the Israeli side, if you haven't heard, like Smotrich and Ben Gvir are threatening to leave, to abandon the government, which would cause the government to collapse if the ceasefire goes beyond phase 1. So, which would bring down again the government, and that's basically the only protection that Netanyahu's got from all the corruption problems. So I think he's on his way out, and I think Trump is aware of that. The Syria thing was like being sold as this huge monumental victory, and in a sense it is, but it also is now an increased source of potential problems and instability in the region. So I don't know. We will see what happens. I'm somewhat optimistic that things will stabilize, but nothing is certain, especially in that part of the world, for all sorts of reasons and all sorts of actors. I think what they got in exchange was the continuation of the normalization process, which was going on under Trump the last time, the Abraham Accords and stuff, some normalization with Saudi Arabia. And the one group that really doesn't benefit, actually, it suffers quite a bit for the normalization, is the Palestinians themselves, because now they're relegated into, the backlog of things people are concerned about. I mean, the Muslim countries haven't been doing anything. All this chest thumping from like the da'is online, like, oh, the Ummah is strong. Okay, so the only two countries which have actually done something are Iran, which is Shia, and Yemen, which is neither Shia nor Sunni. They're like their own thing. All the Sunni nations have been writing, letters of harsh words and condemnations. So good job. I can imagine saved innumerable lives. So that's how I see the situation right now over there. I think this will go through and the normalization process will begin. What will happen with Gaza and the West Bank themselves remains to be seen. Because as long as it's not international news, it will be, maybe also he got some assurances that he will be protected from the ICC. I don't know. A lot of it is speculation and reporting on this secret, side deal, which everyone can guess what it is. Sources say is basically what it is. So it's. I think it's over. Basically, I repeat, that's like the chances I give it is like 55%. So again, optimistic but barely. Right. I wouldn't open a business in Palestine. That's all I'm saying. I understand. What will happen with, there is one thing that will unfold if the peace stays and remains, is that we will be dealing with a far greater number of deaths especially in Gaza, obviously. Now that we can, the people, not we, I mean the international bodies and all sorts of groups will be able to go under the rubble, because a lot of people were dying from that. A lot of people were just being crushed. A lot of people were dying from lack of medication, lack of clean drinking water, lack of food, etc. So I don't trust like the Hamas numbers any more than I trust the Israeli numbers. Like, these are two very motivated sides. So it will take some time before we get some good, clean numbers. From Arrow Ambitions for 5 USD. Greetings from Russia. I'm currently on vacation in Vladivostok. Oh, so you're in Kamchatka then. That's wonderful. Are you from Alaska and, just took a short trip over to Vladivostok? Any good beaches in Vladivostok? I can imagine. Probably the water won't be very liquid, but the beaches, I assume, are great. We'll probably see a lasting disease problem, polio and such. Yes. And again, you have decreased nutrition, not just because the Israelis have been stopping it, but because what tends to happen with a lot of international aid, it gets taken by the people in power and then used as a political tool, or just kept for themselves for no other reason. So you're dealing with at least malnourished people who have to fight diseases that have been more or less eradicated due to good, sanitary practices. That's what's eliminated quite a few of our diseases, let me tell you. But that is no longer the case there. So who knows, like, water can be contaminated both by carcasses of all sorts of animals and, unfortunately, people as well. So it's not looking good, but how much of that will still be in the eye of the international community, as much as I hate that, I don't know. Posh, do you have Twitter now? Yes, it's the Posh Redneck. Maybe Bob Geldof should make a new Christmas hit. Have you been to Russia, Posh? No. The only foreign countries I've been to are Montenegro and Greece. I don't like traveling. Thoughts on the Russian advancement in Russia? Do you mean in the Ukraine war? Do you mean like in the Kursk region? So in the Kursk region, from what I understand, they've been pushing them back, but that's like the part of the Ukrainian forces that are there that are the experienced one. Experienced, goodness, I can't speak today. Experienced ones. But Russians don't operate on calendar dates. This has to be done by this date. No, it's just grinding it, operate in, and being very what do they call it? Very much favoring losing time and ammunition rather than people. Casualty adverse is the term I just remembered, because they are in a good position to do that. They don't have to lose people for these purposes. As far as how it's going in Ukraine, it's just a constant grind. Again, Russia does not want parts of Ukraine that are not majority Russian, because then you will be dealing with endless uprisings and guerrillas and all sorts of things. It will probably end up on the Dnieper River if nothing is done to intervene. And it could be the case. The problem is, what exactly can you offer the winning side in exchange for them stopping? There were a lot of bellicose statements from the members of the incoming administration. That person I utterly detest, Sebastian Gorka, who is a British intelligence asset, for those people who don't know, which is why I was so confused that a guy like Razorfist, who angered me recently with anti-Orthodox tweets. They weren't exactly anti-Orthodox, but sort of representing it as it's some Eastern things, we Westerners shouldn't do it. And I told him, okay, so why don't you become Mormon? Because compared to Germany, Mormonism started so westward that the Germans might as well be doing communion with sake and onigiri. Onigiri. Yeah. Razorfist did that. No, I mentioned him because he collaborates with Gorka. And Gorka is one of these alleged great MAGA people. He is a British intelligence asset. That's fairly obvious to people who have even tried to look at it. I was hoping he'd become Catholic or Orthodox. He is a Lutheran, and very much in the grace freely given and faith alone and stuff. So, but he is also one of these people who try to Gorka. That means bitter, as in the taste. In Serbian, and it's feminine if you have it with an A. No problem, Justin Henley. As I said, I viewed it, and Jay challenged him to a debate. So is that Gorka or Garko? Vlad. I don't know where the accent is on that word. Yes, he's allegedly Hungarian. I don't know. Soros is Hungarian. He should be Soros, but that sh is left out for some reason. The EU appears to be moving to push for regime change in Romania. I've seen the same thing. Hungary and perhaps Slovakia too. Yes, Hungary has been a thorn in their side. Okay, so Gorka, right. So like the name itself. Regime change in Romania. So Orban has been a problem. Pomaže Bog, pa je Bog ti pomogao junače. In Romania, we've got the whole problem. It isn't the first time the EU has been intervening in Romania. I mentioned Merkel, basically, you're swooping in to say, we have no time for regime change, I'm afraid. Right. Merkel's one of the few families that escaped from Western Germany to Eastern Germany. Yeah, the Politburo. The Schengen zone is expanding to Romania and Bulgaria. What do you think will be the consequences of that? Even greater brain drain. The problem with all of these, like Balkan countries, which would include places like Croatia, even joining the EU, meant that a lot of young people left. And sure, they've sent some money back home, but so many old people, remain alone. I've heard about Romania that a lot of, especially old women, because they outlive men generally, like just living alone in villages and stuff, and it's tragic. So sure, you get some money out of it. You get to tell the populace how you've decreased unemployment, but this is very short-term gain. In exchange, like even in Serbia, like you've got a shortage of doctors and stuff. It's not severe because we're not in the EU, but you earn like 5-6 times the money, and it's obvious, and it's difficult to find a job in the medical field, right? So if you're an anesthesiologist, they'll probably kidnap you and get you a job, but like your GPs and stuff, not really. And it's rather unfortunate. So mostly the people who benefit are the politicians themselves. That's what the EU is set up for. Merkel attended the Lenin School in East Germany and studied agitprop. I can imagine. She's also a drunk, which is like a plus. I've always found Nancy Pelosi is sort of a boss. I believe you should go and sod off, and it's kind of Chad just being drunk there, commandeering everyone. It's kind of funny. Bosch is a Vulcan from Star Trek. I've never watched Star Trek, so I can't really track with that. See what I did there? But yeah, the EU is a completely impotent thing other than causing these types of problems. But like on a large scale, it's just so utterly pointless. And pretending like it's like oh we're like basically the US but in Europe. Like, no, you're not, and you can't get agreement on anything. You haven't got an army. You haven't got a unified foreign policy. They've got a unified trade policy, which is why I'm so confused that Trump says things like, "Oh, I'm going to put massive tariffs on Denmark." Well, you can't pick and choose. Justin A says, thank you for always being open to my EO questions. Visited Divine Liturgy. Well, thank God for that. Happy to hear it, Justin. Thank you for the 5 USD. I hope the Bibles you got lead you further into Orthodoxy. No emotion talk, nail W for posh. I laugh loud, loud enough to bother my neighbors. Happy to hear that. And you're in Canada, so like it's like 3 people per square mile, I imagine. Many years at the posh redneck, and all many years onto you as well, God willing. There don't have to be too many years for me. I had a friend who very rarely drank, and she like had like a glass of wine or something, and we were talking. I said, "Oh God, I wish I'd just die," and she started crying. But she wouldn't if she was sober. You know, as I said, it's a very common way, it's a common type of humor here, but it was rather sweet. How do we get in touch with Andrew if we want to join the ghostwriting crew? I don't know what I'm allowed to disclose. So I don't know how to contact Andrew from the outside. That's so creative to use airline seats from 1986 as furniture. Yeah. Cope and seethe, modern boy, with your giant blue lights when my tiny blue lights were the biggest problem in the world. But now you've got these like stadium lights. No one cares. Kad možemo da se uključimo na live stream? So he asked when can we join the live stream? Not today. I won't be here for too long. But the next one I set up will be a proper one. Most likely on Tuesday. Those seats were probably on the Concorde. That's a good one. Star Trek is just a bunch of bagels in space fantasy. Yeah, bagels in space reminds me of that. If you watch The Funny Side of History, which I rewatched not too long ago, and by God, it's awful. But you know, the part 2 promised to have Jews in space and like a spaceship in the shape of the Star of Rembrandt. These armrests are supposed to be in the upright and locked position. Space synagogue. Yep. I'm an idiot. I asked you if you had a Twitter, and when I went to it, it said, "Oh, goodness, I can't speak today. I already followed you." That shows how much how much time I spend on Twitter. Yeah, fair enough. My feed is basically like the couple of people I follow, and then I made the commitment not to linger too long on things that make me angry, except a couple of prot accounts. And if I had some drink in me, you know, I start blasting. I'm one of the many that doesn't know how he'll get through the winter, financially speaking. May die from the cold and starvation. Been making $100 to $200 per month only. The dark winter is upon us. Oh goodness, are you in Greece? With that name, that's, oh Christ. We have been having a pretty light winter. It's, yes, oh goodness. Well, luckily Greece is a bit warmer, so I hope that gets you some saving on the heating costs. That doesn't mean it's hot by any means. When we had the COVID lockdowns, like the prices of fuel just shot up immensely, and it was a very difficult time also for that reason. Colorado is about to get really wintry. Right, we've had some snow in the last couple of days, which is the first time we've had snow linger for more than like a day in who knows how long. Like It's been years. Last winter was basically like spring light. Pa evo, možemo li da se uključimo? Not today. Ne danas. As they are starving us Christians out, Holodomor style. Oof. Thankfully, we have a stove and I have easy access to firewood. Yeah, that's not really a thing in Europe, most of Europe, to say I have easy access to firewood. So if you're in the US, parts of the US and Canada, especially, I assume you can just keep going at it because there's so much, woodland that is untouched, and that's pretty cool. Oof. So what was I saying? Pozdrav I blagoslov iz Vancouvera. Oh, from Vancouver. So even the Serbs here are Canadian. Pozdrav Ivan. Oh God, oh goodness. Yes, Belgrade had snow for a week. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Are you also a Serb? How many of you are secret Serbs that I'm unaware of? Like, we have people with a name that I can recognize, but then a lot of secret Serbs. What's the thing in South Park? Serbian Jew double bluff. Oh, so we've got people from the parish in Vancouver. Happy to hear that. I hope this turbulent time has been rather easy on you. I followed politics quite a bit. People are making a huge thing out of this Trudeau resignation. Like, he hasn't resigned. Like, he said, "Oh, I will resign." Bastard. So it's basically, I know he's buggered, but he can do a lot of damage still. In Canada, fuel went down in the lockdowns. Yes, because you produce it. It went down globally, generally. So when I say fuel, I don't mean like the petrol for your car. I mean like heating supplies, like wood pellets went up massively. Also, there are problems with supply chains that can bring you increase in prices if you don't produce it. And even if you do produce it, it depends on where you are. Goodness. I can't read that out. David James Flood. I just had to Google the spat between Dyer and Witkoff. It was about original sin versus ancestral sin. What is the difference between either? So, for some reason, Witkoff named his channel brother Augustine, because he went to like some Western Rite parish and they have some fraternity of sorts. I can't tell you the exact details, right? So, and he took on the name Augustine. So he went on some great crusade to show that original sin is an Orthodox teaching, and it isn't. Saint Augustine was not correct on that, and it's not a problem to have saints be wrong on certain points. Like, the entire church eventually, cleans things up. That's fine. But people who want to go for this Western Rite, I think they are motivated, a lot of them at least, for good reason. For good reasons, like they want to make it easier for Western-oriented people to convert to Orthodoxy, and if they hear like that we believe that Saint Augustine was wrong on many things, they have a problem with that. Might have a problem, I don't know. But again, we don't compromise dogma. That's the whole point of having dogma. So ancestral, the original sin idea is you're born sinful. Like you have the guilt of it, the guilt of sin, original sin meaning the sin of Adam and Eve. Whereas the ancestral sin is the idea that you live with the consequences of the sin. Like sin, again, isn't a type of legal infraction. It became to be seen that way in the West, unfortunately. And we see how that is problematic and how it developed all the way into like penal substitutionary atonement, in a sense. I'm not deriving a direct lineage. However, another big problem is that it leads to like all sorts of discussions like, okay, so if you're born with sin and a baby dies unbaptized, you know, does it go to hell and stuff? Again, this isn't very there are many terminological distinctions between how we see things in the East and how they have become to be seen in the West, which causes all sorts of problems. And people who are just desperately trying to get any Western saying, like, no one goes and says, oh, this church father, like they would say St. Gregory the theologian, he was kind of a universalist. Like, no one says, well, he's Eastern, so you have to accept it now. No. That's not how theology works. That's not how ecclesiology or ecclesiarchy works. That's just, I don't know, some type of meta-nationalism of some sort. And I don't care about it. We should care for the faith, not if someone got things wrong. It's fine to get things wrong if, when you're corrected, you accept the correction. That's what makes you a heretic, by the way, not having a wrong opinion, but splitting from the church and maintaining the teaching and refusing any correction. Right. Good night, D. Sims. If you search Dyer Whitcoff Orthodox Shahada, you can listen to Kwa's video. I'm supposing that's supposed to be Kai. Kai's video about it. And Kai is a Serb, if I'm not mistaken. Is that how the name is spelled? We will call him Sine Kai Non. That's very funny if you're a nerd. Because wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and sin so death passed on to all men, for all have sinned. Right. That again, I understand, Matthew. We won't get into that right now. Maybe I'll do the next stream on such an issue. This is supposed to be about a lot of things, and I still have things I want to cover. But yet, we would agree with that fully. I've got one for you, the Poshenik. When it comes to the law, the commandments, the Orthodox preach or believe in their importance. If you mean the law as in the Torah, there's a difference between becoming an Israelite and becoming a Jew. Why is that? Because all the Gentiles coming in, the law is practiced, and fullness, again, when people hear fulfillment, they think, okay, it's not done away with, it's effectively done away with. You know, so a distinction without a difference, so to speak, right? Fulfill means fill to overflowing, right? So now it is practiced as the fullness of the law. All sorts of these ceremonial aspects of the law, for example, were didactic and were there to separate Israel from the nations. You know, there's nothing immoral or inherently good about not wearing, a tunics or whatever made from different cloths. No, it was given as a commandment. This will set you apart. All the sacrifices are done away with because the Great Atonement, as opposed to all the other, days of atonement known as Yom Kippur, were practiced. The Great Atonement was done with the blood of Christ. Right? So atonement means to cover things, right? Kippur comes from kefer, and it means to cover something. So you had like the two goats. One is the sins are put on, it's sent out into the desert, sent to Azazel, if you will. There's like goat demon. Az means goat. So he's like this, one of those goat demons, sort of like Baphomet. The other is the goat for Yahweh, and that is sacrificed, not having sins put on it. You can't sacrifice something that sins have been put on because it's now unclean, and you can't sacrifice unclean animals unto the Lord, right? And then the blood there is used to consecrate things, to consecrate the altar, to consecrate the ark, to consecrate all sorts of things. And this atonement then also ends up with 70 bulls sacrificed for the 70 nations. So basically for all the Gentiles. Because Israel, that was its role, to be this priestly nation, which is priestly nation that was supposed to be an example to lead all the Gentiles into worshipping the God of Israel. Is it possible to pair a person with a particular demon the way we are given patron saints? There's no exact way to know that, because demons are liars. So there's no church way of attaching a demon to someone. But if they're dealing with the demonic, there's always an uncertainty with how it works. So sure, one can attach itself to you. But whether you can do it ritually, I'm not sure. Because again, you're dealing with vile, deceiving spirits that are wishing you harm. And they have no reason to be honest about anything. Even though magic is supposed to force them to do things, magic is a bunch of bunk. Where in the world was the follower with severely reduced income? Where in the world was the follower with this reduced income? I don't know. Oh, you mean Nicodemus Serpico? He is back. I see. His connection went down. There is a tradition that says that we are all given a demon and an angel. I am unfamiliar with that. I know God allows these things, but like assigned a demon, I'd have to check that. Yes, the saints are again allowed to be tempted by the demonic, because resisting temptation is a type of spiritual exercise, sort of like lifting a weight is you resisting the weight falling down, and you're training your muscle. Maybe Americans get demons, no Serbian. Well, yeah, we can't afford a demon. Haven't spoken to a priest yet. I will. Thank you. Definitely do so, Nicodemus. Explain to him your situation. People are very understanding, but don't waste time with just having it be a mental exercise. The faith is to be lived. So, if for no other reason, just go try to speak to a priest. I mean, try to speak to him after the services. They tend to make themselves available, like mention you're new and stuff like that, because people are very welcoming, but you have to approach them. They're very busy people. They have whole parishes to deal with, but I've never seen heard like people just being outright rejected, even people from our community, like from our group here, like who have told me, I went and I asked for a priest. If they can't be available immediately, they will set up a time for you when you can meet them. So, God willing, it goes well. But endeavor to do so. Is Christ is King, so Peterson is Peugeot's demon? One of the funniest things I've heard is, I think I heard it from like Ryan Long. I don't know why I said it so strangely. Like Ryan Long, I think he had a friend. It might have been someone else. Like I may have heard it from like the Matt and Shane podcast or something. But someone had a friend who works as a cameraman and was working for something Peterson was doing. And basically Peterson was, sitting there in front of the camera doing his usual, just wagging his finger and stuff. And the guy said he felt very stressed out for like a while because he basically had Peterson yell at him for 2 hours. You're a worm, you're disgusting, but even you. I just find it so funny. That's what I'm doing with some friends that have been insisting on faith alone, but I argue that keeping the commandments is something that even Jesus explicitly stated we should do. If you love me, keep my commandments. How do I approach that? Easiest way to go about it, there are many different ways, but the easiest one is go to James 2, so the book of the Epistle of James, and in the second chapter you will find him explaining like faith without works is dead. And he says, do you not see now how man is saved by works, or not by faith alone, but by works also? Because when they say faith alone, they mean belief alone. And that's not how the word pistis, which is the Greek word, operates. Like it's included. When it says not works, it's distinguishing it from like a pagan approach. Like you try to do some great thing to impress a god, gain their attention, big sacrifice or something. That's like a work. Faith means faithfulness. So the faithfulness of Abraham the faith of Abraham wasn't just a mental activity. It was him being faithful to what God had said, with problems, but he was faithful to God. And with that in mind, that's what you should separate. It's not a mental activity. How it's defined, a mental assent to a proposition. It is a life of faith. They will try to say, oh, no, you're not saved by works, you are saved for works. That's a meaningless thing, because they want it to be this moment in which your mind switches to believe X is true, and now God won't send you, to burn in a magma pit. He'll send you, you get your harp and your cloud and you're good to go. Not how this works at all. I mentioned this to other authors. Don't you think it's dangerous to say faith alone when it would not hurt your salvation to do good works? They have a massive problem with that, because it won't hurt you. They just don't think it's effective or efficacious to do good works as it pertains to your salvation. But again, they have a completely different understanding of what salvation is. So, of course, you could say, and many have, I just don't think it works in arguing, because they are not against good works. They just don't think it's necessary for you to be saved. But there is a danger to say, oh, okay, so I can just stay in a broom closet for the rest of my life and just starve there. And I'll still go to heaven, right? We in Orthodoxy, one of the categories of sin we talk about is sins of omission. Omission, to be clear. it is not doing something good. Going by a beggar, like, well, we start inventing. There are organized crime groups who do organize this, but like, someone is in need, someone is hungry, you don't feed them. Someone is that is what Christ says. I was hungry and you fed me. I was imprisoned, you visited me. And they say, Lord, when did we do this to you? He says, what you do to these people, you do to me, because they're made in his image. As such, they are representative of God on earth. What you do with that is going to mean you're either undergoing theosis or demonosis. Demonosis, not exactly a technical term, but Father Stephen DeYoung tries to make it a thing, and I'm all for it, because you're either engaging with divine energies of God, his grace, mercy, love, and stuff, which is how you actually do mercy or do love and do grace, is by this cooperation, as is translated most often, the part that St. Paul says this, to be a cooperator with God. Right? That is synergy, right? Cooperate. That S-Y-N or S-Y-M in Greek means with. The equivalent in Latin would be either co or C-O-N, sometimes it's C-O-M, sometimes it's even C-U-M. Don't laugh at that. But usually I cooperate, and that operate is work or operate, is energo, or in its nominal form like energia. It means to work in. Ergo, like work as ergozomeni, right? Ergo means to work, to act. En ergo means to work in. So it's far more broad than that. I'm not giving you like the full thing. But it's this cooperation that is making you more like God. You are more like what you worship. If you worship demons, you will become more like demons. And you can have some worldly ancillary benefits to that. That is how they draw you in. You gain certain type of prowess, etc. But you are becoming demonized. And that's I hope not what you want, but if you synergize with God, which we call theosis, you are becoming more like him, and then his full presence in the eschaton will be a full blessing to you. It's not about being in either a magma pit, getting poked in the bum with a trident, or being on a cloud. It is how you experience the presence of God in a direct presence. This is a through line. If you keep it in mind, you will see all throughout the Bible. God fully present in the garden. Man sins. Man is cast out because he cannot withstand the full presence of God there. You will also notice like a through line of how God seems to be receding. Like he eats with Abraham at the Oak of Mamre. But then, they still see him, and he keeps somehow going back and back and back until then there's a fullness of his presence in a certain sense, of course, certain tropos, with his incarnation. His death now anoints the world. Things are made, don't make unclean what God has made clean. We get that revealed to St. Peter about the food, but it's been made clean. The Gentiles are now also made clean, because now the Holy Spirit can go throughout the entire world. This is like a metaphysical reality that happens with Christ's death and resurrection and the harrowing of Hades and stuff. right? So now, when things are rendered more clean, God can be present there in a greater capacity. That is why saints have these experiences and then even powers. You shouldn't view them as like some superhero powers, but still, because they have rendered themselves through a life of faithfulness clean enough for God to be present more in them. And again, that through line is like, okay, God creates the entire law as a sin regulation system so that you have the ability to have him present there more than you know, in a greater capacity again, and have that not kill you. You know, the presence of the Lord can kill people. You know, with Daniel, I mentioned, you know, like this angel, right, appears and he like falls down to the ground. He's exhausted. And then we're talking about Daniel. He's like one of the coolest guys in the Bible as far as being pure and faithful goes. And like he feels this exhaustion. He can't stand. He can't sit. Right? Because he's still not that clean that this is just greatness to him. You know, then you have people feeling the presence of, lo, I am undone. Right? Not because God, there's a problem with God, but because there's a problem with us. And if you don't undergo this repentance, don't undergo theosis, his presence will be a problem for you. That was quite a rant, but I hope I managed to weave that properly so you get this broad perspective. Is that the Pentecost or something? So the first Pentecost was like at Mount Sinai after the rebellion has been quenched, like all the problems that Aaron caused were quieted down. You have the Levites join Moses in quelling that nonsense. Just to mention, like when it says they ate and then got up to play, that's talking about orgies, which were a very common thing after your general worship in the pagan world. So the Levites joined them, and I think it says like 3,000 people or something are killed. And that is the point at which the Levites become the priests. They become the priestly tribe as a reward for this. Up to that point, you know, Aaron was the high priest and stuff, but you have the regular things like the regular sacrifices and circumcision and stuff. They are practiced by the elders of the families and the tribes. And because they've joined Aaron, who led this entire worship of this Apis bull, they have that power taken away from them, and now it's given to the Levites. And that is when you get the first. At Peor, or Baal Peor, they engage in basically the same thing. And that's when Phineas takes a javelin and executes an Israelite who went all the way to the tabernacle with one of these temple prostitutes of Baal, started cavorting with her, and he like puts a spear through them, a javelin, and he is granted the status of a high priest, and Israel is spared. Because before Moses prays to God, he said, I will eliminate all of them and create a new nation out of you. Moses prays to God for mercy, and he grants them mercy, but a portion of them had to be put down for their rebellion. And the Pentecost is after that rebellion being quenched, is that you have this renewal of Israel, and with all the people who weren't formally introduced into Israel, because it says a mixed multitude left Egypt. It was Israel, again, not a genetic thing. They're all introduced, and the ones who are already circumcised and everything, they are they are reaffirmed. That's how Israel was saved from utter destruction, except for Moses under Sinai. Oof. Right. Decent ranting, I would say. Haven't been drinking, so it's not about me getting upset or something over drink. It's just people have been annoying with on Twitter and stuff lately. Even that Jeff Dorothy brought up, like, saved by faith alone, and I you get frustrated if you're, especially someone like me, in the sense how my mind works, how everything has to be tangential, and then interconnected and stuff. It's so annoying that they just bring up this facile point. That's very good if you only care about things being self-referencing. And then I have to explain all of this to get one single point across. And you have to. The faith is not just, oh, it's so easy, a peasant could understand it. Everything I said, a peasant could understand. The thing is that you want your leaflet faith. You don't want the faith of the Bible. Pa samo mi reci kada mogu ostali da se uključe na video sljedeći petak. Verovatno sljedeći utorak. To jest ovaj sada utorak. So Tuesday people can join in. Yes, context matters, and there's so much of it. And then everything, once you start reading about things, everything now makes sense. That's the best thing about Orthodoxy. Things never stop clicking into place more and more. Like the whole Day of Atonement thing. Like if repentance and like atonement is about people just feeling sorry for doing something wrong, why would you anoint an altar? Why would you anoint the Ark of the Covenant? Why would you anoint the temple and stuff? What's the point? What has an altar done? It is consecration. It's being consecrated, which means to be set apart for a holy purpose. And sin infects even the material realm around it. So that's why we have house blessings. So you keep consecrating things, and to return them to the status, this sin keeps reducing like the consecration in a sense by infecting it, so you reconsecrate. And if you spill blood in an Orthodox altar within a church, like, it doesn't matter if it's intentional. Like if I cut my pinky, went into an altar, and everything needs to be reconsecrated. Oof. So Charisma Mysterion for $5 says Gingham Fund. Thank you so very much. See, I've learned your name. From Nicola for A20. Oh, that's probably, is that Australian? I'm going to guess that's Australian. I'm so used to seeing it as AUS. For 20, I'm guessing Australian dollars. Says nothing. Your favorite. Thank you very much, Nicolo. Bro, how much do you weigh? Currently 245, and I need to get to 220 for my weight and build to be proper. So I'm still like 25 pounds over where I want to be, and I'm working on it. I went all the way to 260 at one point, which was tragic. So things are going for the better. Lol, that's why Calvinism is the best argument against Calvinism. Am I elect? Yes. If I skip church, am I still elect? Yes. Okay, never going to church then. Yeah, but then they will say, well, that means you were never elect in the first place. Yeah, Calvinism is just a bunch of nonsense, but still it has enough interconnectivity to make internal sense. Now, does it make sense within the context of the Bible? Not even remotely. But it doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. And if it makes sense to you, that's probably from the Holy Spirit. That's how things work, I'm told. By order of the high table, this hotel is deconsecrated. Why would an accidental cut require that? It's the blood. Again, it's not magic. It's just, you know how King David says, Lord, you're sort of being carried around in a tent and I'm in a palace. Doesn't seem fair. So, and God says, you can't make me a temple because you are a man of war. So David at this point hasn't like gone and done superfluous killing, but he has engaged in war. And when we talk about like war, it leaves a mark on you. Doesn't matter if it's a justified war. 245 kilograms, yes. I'm actually 10 foot tall. Pounds. I've just gotten used to saying my weight in pounds because almost everyone asking me is American. 110 kilograms. Where was I? Right. So the spilling of the blood is dirtying things up. You can't do this Tuesday. Well, we'll see when I can stream later. After that, I'll let you know. I may also do next. Well, probably not Friday. I may also do Thursday. We'll see how much time I've got. And if not, then probably Saturday. I can sometimes do Sunday, but people are already not in the best of moods when Sunday is ending because they are going back to work and stuff. So the fact that blood is spilled, it means you have to take these things seriously. No blood in the altar. That's again not about magic. It's about taking it seriously. And if you're just going to start cutting, exceptions, there will be no end to that. Would you be okay with my clipping the section where you are discussing faith alone to share on my outlets? No, you can do that as you please. Am I mistaken? I can't keep track of people's names. I don't know what's happening. But yeah, if you'd like to make a clip or something, just go ahead. That's never been a problem for me. So, aside from that, I'd like to just mention briefly, distinction is a bit slow, Posh, don't worry about the comments. Yeah. No problem. So, onto my second glass of beer, if you can call it a glass. As I said, I want to mention something about the LA fires. Not in the sense of whether it's a conspiracy for building smart cities and stuff. I'm not that familiar with that particular project. That's why we have someone like Jay, who is very well. You asked a question? Oh, you asked the question about the blood. No, that's fine. I think you're here quite often. I might be mistaken. Right. So the whole thing has been about like the insurance policy. It's been outstanding to me to go back a bit to politics and like your average politics. So it's like insurance companies are easy to blame because no one likes them. They make money out of not paying you back. Okay. People, calm down. That's a fair question. He posed. You have to forgive Dr. Crispy. He's very Irish. But then you hear things like, well, they weren't allowed to raise rates, and then people are angry about, okay, so why would they want to raise rates? Well, because if the price of the houses goes up, you have to increase rates. If the risk goes up of whatever you're insured against, you will have to raise rates. That's how insurance works. This isn't even talking about, like medical insurance. I hate the American system. I think it's uniquely incompetent, and I'm guessing on the part of a lot of people who run it very intentionally so. And it's the only thing that I've ever heard of. If it went more private or more public, it would be better. But then if you try to make it more public, the people who want it to be more private pull you back, and vice versa. So it's this awful limbo of inefficiency and fleecing the populace. I'm better faith than 90% of Orthodox online, and when I'm not being good faith, it's very clear because okay, calm down. Let's not get, we can't all be Irish, like. So everyone, keep your tempers in check. Right. So then they stopped that. They basically capped the amount of insurance you can pay. But then they've been mismanaging the entire place. And California, again, not naturally the most lush of places. I mean, not by nature, that's what I mean by naturally. Not that there isn't a lot of natural lushness, but that it has been rather artificially maintained. So when you stop doing it, it reverts to its natural state. And we've seen the mismanagement. We've seen the lack of tending to the woods. We've seen the lack of trying to make it more damp, as is done in a lot of places. So one thing I'm thinking, because if you saw your insurance, rates go up, and then you go and call your insurance company, you're like, I'm paying for fire insurance. Why has my rate spiked? And if they say, well, the price of your house has gone up, we have to reimburse you for that. So obviously we raise the rate, which again, not fun. But if then they told you, well, we are doing risk assessment and no one's doing anything about all the dry wood in the forests. No one's been doing anything about maintaining a good water supply, etc., etc. You would go, wait a minute, what? Because most people don't care about politics. They will care about having to pay more money. And it's I think that's the primary reason. All the price capping and stuff, obviously, how much is a loaf of bread? Well, it's $1. Well, why is everyone starving? Well, I don't know. The price of bread is $1. Okay, where can I buy one? Well, there isn't any, because to produce it costs like $5, because we've ruined everything. Classic, socialist tactics. But I'm so annoyed that it's just going to be blamed on insurance companies, which again, I don't like. But that's how things work. And they can't work any other way, other than having the government then, back that up. Well, there's no such thing as moral hazard, I presume. That's only something that's bad when the monetary, the investment speculators do it. I'm so utterly upset when people just try to make these short, again, episode-worthy analyses, and not like this is a full-length thing, like everything is integrated, and this whole chunk of things you need to consider just gets ignored because it's much easier to have a one-liner. And why I constantly rant against slogans. Beware of slogans. If something is a good slogan, you should run from it. Flee for your lives. Okay. Okay. As I said, calm yourselves. No point in having these spats. Just ignore it. If it's misinterpretation, just say God forgives and move on. Medical field extremely price gouges in the US. Yes, but that's a whole different thing. That's why I mentioned it. Like the whole medical system, and I've listened to both right-wingers, left-wingers, libertarians, and people on all sides critique it, and then you get a comprehensive look on it, and that everyone's been buggering it for quite a while, and it's so unbelievably this Gordian knot of nonsense no one gets to, and then you just keep like picking things off the top. No, it's fine. It's fine. I understand you got angry. So also you, Dr. Crispy and Moldy Apple, just calm down. I don't, this burns up the passions. And that's not what we should be doing. Why do the leadership of Western countries encourage their native populations to abort their offspring and embrace homosexuality? Because they're trying to destroy them, obviously. If you can't understand that that's what's being done, it's because you're willfully ignorant or ideologically possessed. There's a very, very ancient imperial practice of diluting populations, because people who have something in common can gather around it, which is why I laugh at the idea of class solidarity. It's you can't organize around, well, we make sort of the same amount of money. There's no depth behind that. It's very shallow, very superfluous. And as such, it can only unite people who currently have something that they commonly oppose. They don't even agree on what is causing that, and they can even be on the opposite ends of how that should be rectified. So that's how you get a revolution going, and obviously we need someone to fund it, which tends to be the people who don't exactly mean you well. And then you go and overthrow the system, but now all of your proposed solutions differ greatly, and now they start going at each other. And then, this isn't even to mention all the grifters and subversives and opportunists who get involved. And that's why you want to dilute the population. You want to have the global citizenry. You don't want to have people organizing around a common heritage or a religion or anything. This is why they will tactically support, I don't know, let's say Islam, but then go and blow a bunch of their children to death in a Muslim majority country. They don't care about it. To anyone who says, oh, they love Islam, the actual elites don't. They just see useful, not useful, and counterproductive. And those can vary depending on where it's applied. So it's useful for them to support it in Europe, and it's useful for them to blow it up in the Middle East and stuff. Bosch, what tunes do you know on the uke? This is a glorious way. On the ukulele. There is an element of banana. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer that. I haven't played it for a while. I've been using it a lot in the past as like, I bought it as not a gag gift, unless it's a gag gift to myself, just for the fun of it. And on YouTube, Chairfolders United has made an edit of me playing like a Serbian song on it. But I've also used it as like a substitute for a bouzouki. I may relearn a couple of songs and present it to you next time. Okay, not next time. It's going to take a while. It's a very small thing, and my hands don't fit exactly comfortably on it. Same thing I have with the mandolin. But we can have some fun with that. Yeah, it's almost 1 a.m. and I want to sleep as much as possible before I go out to the lovely Belgrade tomorrow. That's a joke for people who don't get it. Just want to know when you're streaming next, then off to bed. Probably Tuesday. A post stream is never late. It happens precisely when it means to. So you're saying you have an addiction to buying ridiculously undersized instruments for you. I only bought the ukulele. The mandolin was a gift. So no, but it's just funny. When an instrument has either a very bombastic deep tone or a very high-pitched one, it's funny. And the high-pitched ones tend to be smaller. Those tend to be cheaper, so you go for those. The ones with the deep sounds tend to be larger and more expensive, and not as useful for purposes of jokes. Is the Jew harp a smallest instrument? I've played tinier violins. Ukulele is the guitar for lesbians. All right, see you Tuesday. Bog pomogo. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Maybe like a little bit of geopolitics and a little bit of this things about the LA fires, because I'm play your tiny violin. There's a Greek instrument which is like a mini bouzouki called baglamas, which I have to get, and I don't think I can even play it at all. And the Japanese use lace like that in their Toyota Century, Toyota Rolls-Royce. Are you familiar? I don't think that was addressed to me. Or it was by lace, do you mean like the doilies? If so, Eastern Europe collectively needs to sue Japan. The kazoo, but the kazoo I think is still larger than a Jew harp. Right. Right, I was finishing up. So that's the news. This is the new place. As I said, there will be some lighting done, so I don't look like I accidentally went live. Gvozden says, just came to say hello and good night, y'all. Good night to you as well. God bless. I have a friend who works at a small Greek instrument shop in Athens. If you need anything, let me know. I would be interested in getting a bouzouki. So I may call you up on that. I need to know the prices and how that can be shipped, because it can be rather expensive to ship it. Can you play a little piano, Posh? It's a bit late. Let me play you something very important. What's the important thing? Going down through the clear. For those of you who know, you know. I will be playing it more in the future. I'm still getting back into it. I haven't played for 2 years. So currently I'm relearning. Let me show you. The Walton C# minor by Chopin. See, I'm still not used to it all that much. Playing Wake Up by Wes Watson. I don't even know what that is. MyTech23 for $5 says, have you seen the debate between Father Whiteford and Deacon Swaden? What do you think of their takes on true Orthodox? I have not seen that. I have to check it out. I really like Father Whiteford. Play Isabel. I haven't seen you for a while, but I haven't been streaming for a while. Then Moonlight Sonata matched with Crazy. Let's see if I can remember some of the Moonlight Sonata. I keep pressing the wrong pedal. That's as much as my mind can recall at this point. And I can't. I remember when I lost my mind. Started too high on that one. You have to wear a Crucible baseball cap at work, Posh. I've not yet, because I've yet to receive one. It takes a while for it to be delivered. They're delivered by a special Crucible crew with a Crucible lorry that gets on a Crucible ship, and then a separate European Crucible lorry over in Europe and delivered to your home address, and that takes time. If Craig has taken the debate down, it's still Father Joseph's channel. Oh, right. Thank you for the info. Often when Craig invited Father Hares up. Father Hares has been somewhat a subject of controversy, I hear, but I don't go too deep into such things. It's usually I mention something and then Chase comes up and says, "Oh, you know that person," and he ruins stuff for me. But I sent him, I made a decision. Everything on Instagram, every meme I see that contains Alan Jackson has to be forwarded to Chase. So that's how I'm fighting back. Stop arguing in the bloody chat. What's wrong with Father Peter now? I don't know. Something about he hasn't got a bishop. I've heard people explain it like there was some jurisdictional problems and stuff like that. So again, I shouldn't speak on it because I am not too familiar. It's just what I heard. I don't want to besmirch anyone, especially not clergy. Oh, yes. I also wanted to show you my Bible. So this is a standard one you can get from your local church. See, it says Biblia. The other term we use for it is Sveto Pismo. I say if it were any larger, I'd have to register it as a blunt weapon. So that's something I wanted to show you guys. And I can also wear this hat because, again, I don't exactly know. Goodness, I'm so much louder to myself right now. I don't need to wear this, so I can wear my hat. This is a standard traditional Serbian hat from, I believe, the 18th century. I sound extraordinarily strange to myself now without being muffled by the headphones. Craig Trulia, I think that's how his surname is pronounced, has a good video explaining his situation. Okay, so Isabel, and I will continue to emphasize that there's no Z in Norwegian, says that Craig Trulia has explained the situation. This is a Serbian coat of arms and stuff. But I think all the Serbs have left because it's getting quite late here. By the way, Posh Father Peter made a lengthy video on what his status is. It's basically technical stuff with 3 jurisdictions not really communicating. All right. As I said, I'm not too familiar, and that's why I didn't want to. I'm happy that all of you are making these clarifications. I do follow, what is it, Orthodox ethos, like on Instagram, and it's very good that in between the utter autism that is my feed, that I get those. Okay, so we still have Serbs from Vancouver who can recognize the hat. It's called Shaikacha. Or if you're like me from the south, you say Shaikacha. Brother Nathaniel as well. Yes, he's not been very stable recently. I stopped following him on Twitter after he the Rokor proclaimed something that he is not in good standing, at least not anymore, and he retweets it with like accusing the church of apostasy and bowing to demons. Like, oof, that's not good. Especially it's Rokor. It's like if there's anyone you would not make accusations of being liberal and trying to please everyone, it would be Rokor. Yeah, Norway is in the same time zone, Central European time. Nicodemus, my father gave me a Jew's harp one Christmas when I was a child. Never heard it called a Jaws harp until the last year. Last year was when I found out that it was whatever name it had in English. I just called it the boing boing thing to explain it to Jim Bob to get an answer. And when he said Jew's harp, I thought it was a joke. Yeah, it's a pretty epic hat. I wanted to address also a point of linguistic realization that came upon me today, is that Katy Perry, in her song Last Friday Night, I don't know how it came to my mind, but she managed to rhyme the words car and floor. And that isn't explainable by merely saying, oh, she's American posh. She says car and floor. So it's not that. And then I put my linguistic mind to use and realized she spoke with mastery the language that is technically called as High White Girlian. And she pronounces it basically car and flar, so it does rhyme. And her excellence in this ancient language has brought fascination to me. My descent into madness continues unimpeded. So yeah, these things, I don't know how they come to me, and I have to consider them. But it's a fun thing to remember, like how these dialects, both cultural, like the white girl pronunciation of things like the flour. Yeah, but it's not just the Valley speech. Like there's like I think a lot of it is from Hollywood and like those teenage films. So it explains why it's so Californian. But yeah, Katy Perry can rhyme party and Diddy. I like the switch up from the curtains to the chair doilies. Yes. But as I said, like I showed you can see again my giant collection of so that's the curtain. And as I said, like the table's got one. The table's got one, and then I've got these ones in the, it's not cupboard, whatever the name for it is, vitrine. I've got smaller ones, and there's another chair over here with another doily on it. As I said, this is the most doilied room of all, which is why I chose it as my headquarters to receive the full power. All right. Eminem rhymed orange. Ironically, he couldn't rhyme it again, and he made a song about Trump. Donald the bitch. That was utterly pathetic. Needs to be more inflection at the end. Sorry, you can't expect me to master a high white girlian. Okay, correct me on Perry. She's not rhyming car with floor. She's rhyming it with boss. I'm pretty certain it's car with floor, but I understand. Trying to connect the dots. Don't know what to tell my boss. Okay, trying to connect the dots. Don't know what to tell my boss. Think the city towed my car. Chandelier is on the floor. And now you're messing with me. So I see how it is. But like, why? I think there's an element of, everyone says you sort of do this thing. I'm just realizing how big my head has gotten since high school. I can't fit it over. It's not fitting fully over my head. Do you wear that hat when you're hammered? Obviously. It's alliteration, not rhyme. Alliteration. Why is everyone messing with me right now? Is it because I took my headphones off? Is this retaliation for this great crime? So, this is the cigarette I'm going to finish, and then I'm off. I mean, you're being serious. Why would it be not dots and boss? I mean, that's already unsalvageable. But then car and floor. Pajo, dobro znaš teologiju. Hvala lepo. The rhyme scheme is A, B, A. No. I mean, even with the rhymes, those things get switched up, especially in the apex of music, which is 2010's white girl music, represented by such great names as Katy Perry, Kesha, famous second last posh cigarette. Oh yeah, she's awful. I'm not mentioning her other than to praise her mastery of high white girlian. Sledeća tema mi trsta naplatne rampe. I'm not sure I have the knowledge able to cover such things. Naplatne rampe. Don't forget Pink. Oh yes, Pink. She has more of like a rock vibe to it. It's not exactly white girl music. It is pretty white girl music-y, but it is tainted. There's like garage rock stuff. And to be fair to Pink, she's a very good singer. Posluću ti moj video. Go ahead. I'll see what you've got to say. Kelly Clarkson, don't know who that is. Taylor Swift piano cover. I guess I should. Zappa, the original Valley Girl. Was it Frank Zappa, whose father was like head of chemical warfare? Or am I mixing him up with someone? Jesus, take the wheel. I know quite a few Protestant songs, and I've been thinking, and I think I've mentioned this, I just never get into it, to rewrite them to correct the theology. Someone played Taylor Swift, and it was stuck in my head until Jimbo created his masterpiece, L's in the Chat. Oh yeah, the songs are genetically engineered to get stuck in your head. I remember Andrew made one of his like trash talk extravaganzas and used "Take a Chance on Me." I think that's what the song is called. You know what I mean by ABBA, if that's not the name of the song. And for 4 days I couldn't get it out of my head because it has my weak point, which is harmony. I'm a sucker for harmony, and plus it's very catchy. And then I didn't sit down, but metaphorically sat down and listened to it like 20 times in a row, and that helped. And by the next day, it got out of my head. What am I missing? Okay. People just talking, that's fine. We're winding things down here. Again, it was more of an improv thing to say hello and show you the crib. I love how I still have like the jargon from like 20 years ago or so. And with the accent and the rapidity with which I speak really gives it proper flavor. ABBA are actually pretty harmonically sophisticated for a pop group. I agree. But I mean, back then people had to make actual music. Not good music necessarily, but actual music. So sort of like everything today is just, you have to like sing. Even if you don't sing, you basically just talk like you're on Xanax. And then that somehow gives it profundity. Look how dreary I am. Okay, go be dreary over there. And turn around for a while. And then when you stop being dreary, you will be allowed back into wider society. Where does this two-finger pointing together come from? There's an 80s superhero TV series out of this world about a girl alien which does that to trigger her powers, but where else? I think anime. I don't know if anime picked it up or something. I know it's common in anime. And I don't watch a lot of anime. So if I know it's there, people who actually watch it, I am certainly do. A lot of these trends are from anime because they put a lot of emphasis on these small things because it's very easy to make them sellable. I will not make any anime emoticon. So, blah, blah, blah. You can take that one. Is the jutsu to conjure to martyr. I've also never watched Naruto. I don't know, just never got. One of those old ones I did watch was Dragon Ball. No waifu emojis yet. I don't know. A lot of anime has it's like a good sense of humor, and I only watched like the comedy ones and stuff because they have a lot of exaggerations and nonsense. But then you know what it's like. The moment they start going into fan service, I'm like, I'm out. So Milan Radulovic, you can't post links in chat. You can leave it in the comments afterwards. Only admins can, mods can put links in the chat. If God real, why not cat girl wise? Nice. I mean, we're getting destroyed by these atheists. I hope that doesn't occur to anyone, or it leaks from this chat, because I have no answer to that. That ends, that finalizes the problem of theodicy, definitely in favor of there being no God, or if there is, he is pure evil. I was wondering about that. I'm not much into Amine, but that looks interesting. Posh Lang, he's a huge Afro samurai animal fan. Okay, goodbye, lads. Bye, Vlad. Animal dance, Patrick. It's fine. I'm not reading that one out distinction. I don't fall for these things. So, do you remember that one time that we were raided by the Crucible, and someone said Nick Gurr? Like, no, doesn't work on me, unfortunately. The best way, my brother capitalizes on this a lot, is to misuse a word or slightly misspell it, although that doesn't really work in written form, I suppose, because I can just think, oh, it's a typo. But when he speaks, he mispronounces it or uses it wrongly. It's like a word that's similar to the one that should be used, but he's serious about it, and that gets me going. And the 3 or 4 seconds it gets for me to realize I'm being trolled, I've already lost. How did Google Translate do? Very well. That's why I won't fall for it. Laku noći, Boži blagoslov, pozdrav iz Vancouvera. Laku noći tebi, i Bog te blagoslovio. So he says good night and God's blessing, regards from Vancouver. I wish I spoke multiple languages so I could do cross-language puns. Wordplay would be so fun. Yeah, I did one with Latin earlier. I'm not sure if anyone else. It was about sine qua non, which means without which not, if you just translate it. But it's like a necessary, or it's like a necessary prerequisite, is what the term is used for. But because I think it was Slow Boy Whiteboard misspelled Kai's names into QUA. No, QUI or something. Sine qua non. Oh, I have a blast with myself. When are the classes starting? Oh, that's a good point. I've completely lost it since I started working at the Crucible, but I now have the funds, and I've had to buy StreamYard, which allows me to upload things, which means I can prepare a lot of things, which was my biggest problem in starting. And I had to, save all my money. And for some reason, it now costs like $45 to get a monthly subscription for StreamYard. But I can do that now. So nice. Or do you have sloppy Joe in Serbia? That's like the burger that isn't like solid, it's like mushy and stuff. Nice one, Matthew. Even that with the fancy accent doesn't work completely, but it would work sufficiently. So that's a good one. You need to have a very high IQ to understand Posh's humor. The Rick and Morty reference. Never watch that either, because I am not a homosexual. You catch all of Jay's streams, brother. I try to catch many, but it's difficult. He produces a lot of content, and I'm trying to keep up, but there's only so much you can do. Luckily, there's a lot of clips channels. Jube and Kyle runs one and stuff, so you can get a lot of the high points very easily from like the debate ones, and they it's not easy to get like 3 hours. American cuisine boils down to hard and soft burgers. Well, Americans specialize in like barbecue. So that's something that can be really, really done well. Differences in marinating, differences in cooking, different cuts can be used, and then all sorts of sauces and stuff like that. Hot dogs as well. Like, it sounds silly, but depending on what you use as condiments, it can be quite a good thing. And of course, like the average hot dog wiener isn't the best thing, but they can be made high quality. It's just that the price reflects that. And I'm not talking about the hot dogs that Obama would order. Just to be clear, Americans specialize in diabetes. He died recently, didn't he? Wilson Brimley. I'm a sloppy Joe enthusiast. My great-grandparents ran a business called So Good Barbecue, a sloppy Joe product. It's since been sold, but I think sloppy Joe is an underrated poor man's food. I like the idea. It's basically like a softer hamburger, so there's nothing wrong with it. I've just never made any. And I guess it's not difficult to make one. I just never thought of it. Maybe I do something with it. First, I have to try the duck fat. That's a promise I made to people here. So after that, I will try and get a sloppy Joe taste test. I come back and Posh has gone full Chad mode. I have two modes: autism and Serbian nationalist autism. That's basically it. Like a smash burger. No, it's like it has a lot more sauce and stuff in it, so it doesn't become rigid. Like it doesn't become like a slab of meat. You're not listening to the first minute of March on the Drina instrumental. It's a looper listening to Posh in that hat. You are missing out. Yes, and that march was composed in honor of the Iron Regiment, which hails from my part of the country. We have a park, commemorative park, like 200 meters from my house, commemorating them. There you go. It's epic. Right. So I've finished my cigarette, so let me see if anyone else has written anything, and then I'm off. It's now 1:30 a.m. Americans are the inventors of soft serve ice cream. Also, inventors of deep fried ice cream, which is fairly impressive. Like, few people would even begin to contemplate that. American is a lot like China in the way we steal everyone else's stuff, but instead of making it cheaper and worse, we make it awesome. Poisonous, but awesome. Right. Serbia the talk here. Right. Americans invented being cool. And invented the word dude. So you can't not be the inventors of being cool. Was away for a while, now you have a hat. I've got a different one just without the coat of arms, and it hasn't got the reinforced sides. So I think that one might fit me better, but I need to get a bigger one. My head has gotten too big. Right. So I have to leave for now. Sorry, I have to cut it off at some point. There's never a good point to cut off a debate, but we have to do it. And that's it. So, God willing, we will talk again on Tuesday. I'll really try to work out how I can do the Latin lessons now that I can prepare and load things up on stream. That's going to make things a lot easier. And I don't need any prep for like teaching you how to read it and stuff, which would be a whole lesson in and of itself. So maybe we do that. If not, we'll see. If not next week, in the very near future. So thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that. And with that said, I wish you all a very good night, and we will talk again soon. So, bye-bye.